This segment is called We Told You So. And we're going to start it out with, last week we had a lot of QB injuries, so we tried to key on some guys that will help you to fill in with, the Vic injury. Cutler was sitting out with a concussion. We told you Sean Hill, and boy, were we right. Guy had an epic game. We're hoping you picked him up and you started him. And I'm going to say if you did pick him up, keep him around. He's a very decent backup QB. He's a great bye-week fill-in. Even when they're playing a tough team, Detroit throws like crazy in second halves because they're always behind. And he's been pretty good. He's got a really good connection with Pettigrew. He's doing great with Calvin Johnson. He's hitting best out of the backfield. Love this guy.
Sure.
Next down the list, I love this guy too. Tony Moiaki. I like saying his name.
Adam just loves tight ends.
I was going to say,
it's always a love of a tight end.
He never said anything about being annoyed with Aaron Hernandez. I have a feeling he wouldn't even be talking about it right now.
Well,
now he's just trying to rub it in our face.
Actually, look at the write-up. Maybe this rookie can give Hernandez and Gresham a run for best rookie tight end of the year. I'm just saying. I got to say Aaron Hernandez again.
Sure you
Tony Moiaki has had 4 catches in the last two weeks. He's a guy that Castle is starting to key in on. 4 catches every week for a rookie tight end. I wouldn't get rid of this guy even if you picked him up last week. I'd keep him around.
Here's why I like him too, Adam. Because he's playing the Texans, and the Texans have given up, I think like 2 tight ends have something like 11 catches each against the Texans. So they allow a lot of that in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And this could be a big week for Moiaki. It could be a bust-out. Breakout performance, and they really don't have that many go-to guys. I mean,
no, it's Bo and then Moiaki.
Right,
and
he's really kind of the best guy they have. So heck, I might pick him up. Add a 3rd tight end.
I'm starting him this week, and I'm starting him over Aaron Hernandez, who I think because Miami's very good against tight ends.
Yeah, they are.
They're going to be able to shut down Hernandez. And then this next one, maybe we're cheating a little bit, but we said pick up either St. Louis or Detroit because they're playing each other. We were half right.
Yes.
Because Detroit had probably the best defensive game of the year so far. They scored 2 touchdowns. I think they even got a safety, didn't they?
In that Detroit game as well, last week we also talked a little bit about Pettigrew, who didn't have a huge game but caught a touchdown. Still a guy that's being looked for, and he caught a touchdown at a very crucial time in the game, give them the big lead, and he's definitely someone that, as long as Sean Hill's throwing, he's going to look for.
And another thing to look for in tight ends is a team that's bad at picking up the blitz generally gets it to their tight end a lot because the tight ends run those quick slants that are those outs if a quarterback thinks he's about to get crushed. So Detroit's terrible picking up the blitz, and Pettigrew is the beneficiary of that.
Not a great pedigree, but he has room to grow. And that's why he will be Pettigrew.
Oh, God.
I don't mean to be petty here.
This next one I'm really happy about because last week the big news was the Randy Moss trade. And we on this show said that this benefits one person the most, and that is Percy Harvin.
The guy who won my game for me. I love you.
2 touchdowns, I think 7 receptions, had a great game. We get return yards in my league, so he had like 39 points for me. It was insane.
And he should have had, that far botched throw.
That
would have been a touchdown.
Potential 60-yarder at least.
Yeah, that was that.
Maybe not a touchdown, but that gets him in the field goal range.
And he was being covered by Revis too, so
yes, he was.
He can get out of those, and
and that's what we're saying about him for the rest of the year with Moss there. Rarely are you going to see a safety go over to cover Harvin. They're always going to be covering Moss, so he's going to get a lot of one-on-one. I really like this guy for the rest of the year. Sorry that your Vikings are struggling, but that benefits a wide receiver on their team because they're going to be throwing a lot. So, like Harvin. And then another QB we talked about, actually, I believe it was JJ, right? You're the one who talked about Garrard, didn't you?
Yeah, I just talked about, we were talking about Garrard. I think both Jabber and I, which is rare that our half of the table is right on something.
I dropped him and then picked him back up for this week because there was a little danger of Rodgers being out. But keep in mind, all right, now I know you mentioned the Buffalo thing, right, that they played Buffalo. But Garrard has had 3 solid games this year. He played very well against Denver. He had 3 touchdowns. And he played really well against Indy. He had 2 touchdowns, no picks. And he ran for a bunch, too. In my league, he had like 31 points against Indy. So, look, Garrard's a good stopgap and a good number 2. And right now, look, Dallas put up a lot of points last week on Tennessee. So, Tennessee's defense isn't as stout as it once was. And Garrard could be a good option.
I stuck with Matt Ryan, and that was a mistake. Didn't screw me as much, but, we talked about him, and then I hesitated, and I was like, I'm going to stick with Matt Ryan, and guess what?
Like I said,
otherwise,
he screwed you.
JJ's problem is he doesn't take his own advice.
I don't listen to it. If I just took my own advice, I'd probably have 2 more wins in my league.
You have to learn to trust.
Didn't even Mercedes Lewis have a good game last week.
He did. Mercedes
He did.
Lewis had a good game.
So he's getting it. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm sorry, I had another I told you so.
Oh, go for
Speaking
it.
of Mercedes Lewis and the
Yeah.
Jaguars, this Mike Thomas guy had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
He had 3 carries, 51 yards or 53 yards. Also caught a few balls, and at least in my league scoring system, only had a point less than Mike Sims Walker, who is really struggling. So Mike Thomas could end up being this little sleeper that just is nice, consistent. Nice
Yeah, and
consistent
I
every
think
week.
what we're finding out about Mike Sims Walker is he's not bad, but he's not as good as he was last year. He and Thomas are much more equal than people think. So there'll be a week where Sims Walker has the game and then Thomas has the game,
Sure.
but Thomas is cheap. You can, a lot of
Yeah.
leagues you can still pick him up and you could probably trade
real cheap.
for him
And he'd
for
be
nothing.
good trade bait too.
Yeah.
Mike Thomas is a rookie. I think he's, only going to get better. So
I agree.
as he gets more comfortable, that's why I think he's